Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to my Monday Night Raw review. And tonight's Raw was held from the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. And I did a live video earlier here. It was just, I wanted to do like a live reactions video to Raw, instead of doing, a review. Since last week's Raw was one of the worst Raws I've ever seen. Pretty much one of the worst Raws. But tonight's, we'll get to that. But I wanted, like I said, I wanted to do a live stream, just do live reactions of me watching Raw, talking about what's going on. But just doing that for like a whole 3 hours where I'm just watching it, just telling you all what's going on. It's just like. First, I did it earlier, and like I was silent and just watching, what was going on Raw. Then, talking about, what's going on. But I was like, there's no point in me going, another 2 hours of the show, because I started the live stream like around 9 o'clock when we were almost heading into the second hour of Raw tonight. But I was like, you know what? Rather not do this. Rather not do like a live reactions thing. But I had it in my mind, but it was pretty much to me a bad idea to do it. But if you guys want me to do live reactions to Raw every week, instead of reviewing the show, let me know. Let me know in the comments down below. But getting to Raw tonight. Another week, another shitty Raw was. This Raw tonight was just as bad as last week. And the show just ended like 5 minutes ago. So, but let's get on with this review. We had some rerun mode shit again with some stuff. So the show opened tonight with we had like a 10-bell salute to George H.W. Bush, who was our 41st president. He ended up passing away on Friday. Of course, also the father to George Bush. So yeah, it's a shame, but they did that. They did a 10-bell salute. Thoughts and prayers, go out to the Bush family. And then Raw started off with Ronda Rousey and Natalya versus Nia Jax and Tamina. But unfortunately, the Riot Squad ended up coming out. Ruby Riot, Sarah Logan, and Liv Morgan. They end up coming out with a table. And then we saw Nia and Tamina. They both attacked Ronda and Natalya. Ronda was getting thrown into the steps outside from Nia and Tamina. And we saw Nia end up doing a leg drop on Ronda. And Natalya ended up getting put through the table because she ended up getting super kicked from Ruby Riot, and then a power bomb from Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan through the table. And so the match never really got in the way. The match was no contest. And then we had after when Raw came back from the commercial. We had Natalya and Ronda backstage. Natalya was badly hurt after going through the table. Ronda ended up saying, "Oh, we need help," here. And so WWE doctors came and they took a look at Natalya. And so that was that. And then we had Alexa Bliss end up coming out. And this was just as last week. This, like I said, Raw rerun mode with this same segment from last week where Alexa ended up giving a open, an open forum where people who were possibly planted in the crowd by WWE to ask questions to Sasha and Bayley. And so we got this again tonight. We got this fucking again tonight. So Alexa came out saying, last week she was appointed to oversee the Raw Women's division, and she promises to work, so hard every week to give us the best the Raw division has to offer. So, the best to offer. I'm like, you're having Sasha and Bayley come out again and answering questions just like they did last week. And nobody gave a shit about it. Nobody even gave a shit in the crowd. So she goes, oh, we're going to try last week, which was ask questions to Sasha and Bayley. Sasha Banks and Bayley ended up coming out. Alexa says, this is an open forum, just like last week. And Bayley was like to Alexa, she was saying, oh, how many questions do we have to wait until Alicia Fox, Mickie James, and Dana Brooke, attack her and Sasha again? Alexa says, she banned them from coming out here. And then we got to the questions, which Charlie Caruso was holding up, the mic to those people. And so we had one guy ask a question to Sasha and Bayley, saying how on social media, they're saying, people are saying how Sasha is using Bayley. And, Sasha was like, Bayley is her best friend, and they are going to be tag team partners for life. And so we had another question, which was asked by a girl. She asked if Sasha and Bayley were to have a match with a woman from any era, who would it be? And so Bayley and Sasha both say Lita and Trish, which that would be good, to see in the future if Lita and Trish were to ever come back, just for one match. So that would be good to see. Both of them, take on both Sasha and Bayley. And so we had another guy. Ask a question. He asked Sasha and Bayley if they had any superpower, what would it be? And I'm like, oh my god, this segment was getting boring. And the crowd was chanting boring also. Yeah, I saw one guy in the crowd. He was on his phone through the whole segment. Through the segment. And Bayley says, she would make things disappear. And the one thing that she would make disappear would be Alexa. And so Sasha says she agrees with Bayley on that. And then Alexa retaliates and says to Sasha that she was the one who took the title away from Sasha. And we had another woman ask a question saying, what changes will they bring to the women's division next year in 2019? And Bayley says she knows for both her and Sasha that they both want to be the first ever women's tag team champions, which I could possibly end up seeing. I think if WWE were to introduce or are going to introduce the women's tag team championships, I think it should go to Bayley and Sasha. I think they should be the first ever women's tag team champions. Even though, to me, we don't need women tag team championships. sorry about that, but I was saying, we don't need, tag team championships for the women. I mean, what is WWE going to do? They're going to give Raw Women's Tag Team Championships and, SmackDown Women's Tag Team Championships just like the men. So, that's what I'm like, that's what they're probably going to do. That's what they're probably going to do. It just sounds, the sounds of it. So they're going to make Raw Women's Tag Team Championships and SmackDown Women's Tag Team Championships. So, but, yeah, then we had Dana Brooke, Alicia, Fox, and Mickie James. They end up running out. Alexa says, oh, we're not having it tonight. And Alexa says, there will be a tag team match tonight. And Alicia and Mickie will be facing Sasha and Bayley, which happened. So we had Sasha and Bayley versus Mickie James and Alicia Fox tag team match. Who gave a shit? I didn't give a shit about this match. Sasha and Bayley end up winning the match. Dana Brooke was out there, and Alexa was sitting, at ringside on the floor. So Sasha and Bayley end up winning the match. Bayley ended up hitting the Bayley to belly on Mickie James. Moving on. And we had Ronda Rousey approaching Alexa, saying that the Riot Squad crossed the line. Alexa says to Ronda that she sent the Riot Squad home, and they will sort it out next week. And Ronda says, she wants Nia and Tamina. And she tells Alexa she's going to find herself a tag team partner. So we had that. And then we had Baron Corbin backstage. Chad Gable and Bobby Roode end up approaching Corbin. Gable ends up telling Corbin that, they want a rematch, that they both want a rematch with AOP for the Raw Tag Team Championships. And Bobby Roode says, he wants to get his hands on Drake Maverick after what Maverick did last week, where he took Roode's robe, where he stole it, took it to the bathroom, wore it, put it in the toilet, and pissed on it. So Corbin says to the both of them that they could get a rematch with AOP if Bobby Roode beats Drake Maverick. And he also says Gable and AOP are banned from ringside. So we have Bobby Roode versus Drake Maverick tonight. Oh boy. Oh boy. Wait until I get to that. Then we had another rerun mode match. Lucha House Party versus not Revival, not both of the Revival, but Scott Dawson of the Revival in a Lucha House Rules match. We've seen this Lucha House Rules match 3 weeks already. 3 fucking weeks. Well, we all know who wins this match. Lucha House Party wins. Kalisto ended up hitting a Salida del Sol on Scott Dawson. And Gran Metalik ended up hitting a senton on Scott Dawson. There was your match. So, same old shit. Same old fucking shit. Then we saw a crew guy. He ended up coming in to see Baron Corbin. He ends up delivering a box, and Corbin was like, "Oh, why are you late with this?" Tells the crew guy, "Oh, why are you late? Giving me this." So Corbin opens it up, and he was like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna like this." Me and Drew McIntyre, because it was gonna be Drew McIntyre Appreciation Night tonight. And so when Raw came back from the commercial, we got that. We had Drew McIntyre Appreciation Night. Baron Corbin was in the ring. And he goes on to say that in just 2 weeks, when he beats Braun Strowman by forfeit, he'll be permanent GM of Monday Night Raw. Which, God, I hope not. I mean, there's all these rumors saying that Strowman is not going to be competing at TLC. But, by God, my God, if Baron Corbin is permanent GM of Raw, this show is going to get as worse as it heads into the new year. Bet yourself on that. And so Corbin says, he's living proof that if you're born better than everyone else, you can achieve anything. And he goes on to say he can admit that he's had some thorns in his side. It was the Shield, Finn Balor, Kurt Angle, and even Braun Strowman. So Corbin says one man has helped make his journey easier, and that was Drew McIntyre. And so then we get a video package of Drew McIntyre. And after it was over, McIntyre ended up coming out. Corbin ends up thanking him for all his hard work and his unwavering support. That proves that, he's on the right side of history, that McIntyre is on the right side of history. And Corbin then presents him with the box that we saw the crew guy come to give to Corbin. And inside the box, it contained a medal. And Corbin tells McIntyre that the medal is Raw's gold medal of excellence. And so McIntyre gets on the mic, thanks Corbin before, because he was talking shit about the roster and saying, oh, the Raw roster is just here, just to play video games and, collect a paycheck. And, it's why he goes on to say it's why he's reformed Raw in his image as, the home of the strong and of the mighty. And, McIntyre, wants to talk about Finn Balor. Saying, he likes to think of himself as, the voice of these pathetic people. Which McIntyre says. And he goes on to say the truth is Balor is nothing more than a boy in a man's world. And he goes on to say that at TLC, he's going to hurt him, break his spirit. And then he gets interrupted by Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler comes out. Sorry about that again, but Dolph ends up coming out and says he thinks McIntyre is having memory problems because he says that they both had a deal and they both had an alliance. And Dolph brought McIntyre to Raw, and he was like, "Oh, how come I'm not in the video package?" And Dolph was like, he doesn't get it. And he goes on to say that they both took everybody down, and he's like, his invitation to this party got lost in the mail. And so McIntyre ends up telling Dolph that he wasn't invited. Goes on to say Dolph doesn't quite meet the height requirement. And McIntyre was saying that, he was the brains a minute ago. But, McIntyre goes on to say that he was the whole damn project, the whole damn package. And their business relationship was working for him, but not anymore. And he pretty much was saying that, Dolph, was just, helping, McIntyre get up there. And McIntyre, was, doing, most of the stuff. And he goes on to say if Dolph wants to know his role it was to get him in a permanent position. And McIntyre ends up thanking Dolph and tells him he can leave anytime. And so Dolph doesn't, Dolph doesn't budge. He doesn't get out of the ring. And McIntyre asks if his thanks aren't good enough, or if Dolph is gonna cry. And he's like, oh, Dolph should kiss McIntyre's feet for making Dolph relevant for the first time in 10 years. So that took shots at Dolph. And we see Dolph then just starts throwing punches at McIntyre. Dolph does a tilt-a-whirl, hits a zigzag on McIntyre. And so Corbin ends up telling Dolph if he wants a fight, he's got it. So Corbin makes a match between Dolph and McIntyre. And I say this segment with Dolph, it was, they just throw Dolph and McIntyre, in a match just like that. I mean, the segment really didn't do anything. It didn't move, the storyline further. So they just throw Dolph and McIntyre into a match just like that. No storyline progress, no build for, the match. We could have seen them have a match at TLC. But no. WWE just throws Dolph and Drew in a match just like that. So we had the match, Dolph versus McIntyre. And this match itself was an okay match. Wasn't great by any means. But at least it was back and forth between them. We had Balor end up coming out for the match. He was just watching the match outside. Just looking at what was going on in the ring. And Balor got involved. He ended up hitting the double knees to McIntyre. Outside, McIntyre went into the barricade and got back in the ring because the ref was counting to 8. And we all thought it was going to be a count out, but McIntyre ended up getting back into the ring before the count of 10. And Dolph ended up winning the match. Ended up hitting a super kick to McIntyre. So Dolph Ziggler ends up winning the match. And this is the first time, I think, before McIntyre, when McIntyre came back to Raw. This is the first time that Dolph, that McIntyre ended up, getting pinned. Because McIntyre, was pretty much, undefeated, but, Dolph ended up beating him. So, but yeah, it was a, okay match. But, it wasn't great or perfect by any means. And then we had Charlie Caruso. She was interviewing Drew McIntyre about Dolph. McIntyre says, Dolph wasn't his friend, but an asset. And Dolph is now his enemy. And he says Dolph's been living his potential for 10 years to get up to the mountain. Which McIntyre ends up saying, that he is the mountain. And he goes on to talk about Finn Balor, saying, at TLC, he's going to, annihilate Balor. So it was just that little interview with McIntyre. And then we had Elias was in the ring. He says he's been searching for Bobby Lashley, I'm sorry, the almighty Bobby Lashley, as what they called Bobby Lashley last week, the almighty Bobby Lashley. So sorry about that, but Elias was saying he's been searching for the almighty Bobby Lashley all day, because he goes on to say that he would love to wrap a guitar around his head. And he says the reason Lashley is hiding because he's afraid of the living truth. And he goes on to say that at TLC there will be no more hiding, and that Lashley will know that WWE stands for Walk with Elias. And he says he does have a song to sing tonight, which then he gets interrupted by Lio Rush. Lio Rush was out there on stage. Bobby Lashley was out there. And Lio Rush says to Elias that the spotlight should belong to Lashley. And that Elias has felt Lashley last week. And he goes on to say that at TLC, he's going to feel, it again with Lashley. And so Lio Rush ends up telling Lashley to pose, oh, why don't you show your posing side? And, he does, a chest pose, double bicep pose, and the stupid shit where he ends up bending down, his ass is showing, to the camera, which nobody fucking wants to see. And so Elias ends up coming up the ramp. Lashley ends up beating him down. Then we see Elias end up taking, Lashley, tosses him into the sort of like the LED stage board, that's on the stage. And Elias then takes his guitar, chases Lashley to the back. Elias ends up coming back out. And Finn Balor, tosses Lio Rush on the stage. And we see Elias then just hits Lio Rush in the back with his guitar. Which that got the crowd over. So, but, all in all, it was, meh segment. I mean, we got to see Elias versus Bobby Lashley once again at TLC. Oh, my God. Then we see Jinder Mahal and Baron Corbin backstage. Jinder tells Corbin to Shanti. And Jinder ends up telling Corbin, that Corbin's been doing a good job on Raw. Yeah. Corbin's doing a good job on Raw? Really? Corbin's making Raw insufferable. It's just like the show. Raw is insufferable every single week. And he ends up saying to Corbin, let me take care of Balor tonight. Great! So we get Jinder Mahal versus Finn Balor tonight. Oh my God. It'll be another shitty match. Yeah, Jabba Mahal taking on Finn Balor. I'm sorry, Finn Balor deserves better. Putting Balor with fucking Jinder Mahal. So Slater and Rhyno, also Heath, Slater and Rhyno come in. Corbin says to them that there is not enough room on Raw for one of them. And Corbin ends up saying, why doesn't one of them quit and save the other one's, job? And Heath Slater goes, oh, he has a family. And, Rhyno says, oh, I have a good career. And so Corbin ends up making a match for them to go one-on-one. And whoever loses is fired. And the other person, whether it be Slater or Rhyno, one of them will have their job saved. So they're making Slater and Rhyno a team that, breaking up a team that nobody even cared about, and that they haven't done shit for them on Raw. This garbage. This is fucking terrible. So then we had AOP, well, not AOP, but Bobby Roode versus Drake Maverick, which got underway, and then we saw on the Titantron while it was happening, AOP was beating the hell out of Chad Gable backstage. Baron Corbin ends up coming, and then all of a sudden Baron Corbin makes the match a 3-on-2 handicap match. I'm like, seriously? So now it turned into AOP and Drake Maverick versus Bobby Roode, Chad Gable in a 3-on-2 handicap match. Hey, who gave a shit? Who gives a shit? AOP and Drake Maverick win the match. AOP did the Super Collider on Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. That was the match. So, but yeah, who gave a shit? Who gave a shit? And then we had Dean Ambrose came out. There were sirens blasting because we had these guys come out with gas masks, and we just heard the sirens going on, and then Dean Ambrose music hit with the sirens still going. And when Dean Ambrose came out, he was wearing the gas mask. He was wearing a gas mask, and I'm like, when he talked, he still had the gas mask on. When he had the gas mask on, he was like, "Oh, Houston, Texas is a slum," and he needs this gas mask not just to protect himself from diseases that are in the arena, but to protect him from a madman named Seth Rollins. I swear to God, when he talked, he sounded like fucking Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. You should just call him Bane Ambrose. That's what he looked like. He looked like Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. Instead of going, "Oh, I gotta kick over this Batman." That's what it looked like. When you look back at this segment, all you would think about with Dean Ambrose with the gas mask on is Tom Hardy as Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. I swear to God. Yeah, Bane Ambrose. So Dean Ambrose ends up taking the mask off, the gas mask off, and says, the last time he was in the ring, Seth ended up attacking him unprovoked. And he ends up saying Seth is just like the people, needy and emotional. And he starts complaining about people asking for pictures, sticking their phones in his face, and he asks, if they have any idea what it's like living with somebody who's always got to be right. And he goes on to say that the Shield, used to be something, to be proud of. And he goes on to say after a while, Seth and Roman only cared about being role models and sucking up to people. And Dean was like, "Oh, life sucks, and you always don't get what you want." He goes on to say that Seth and Roman changed, and that they sold out, and that he's the constant, the last man in this industry with integrity. He goes on to say that the only thing that he's guilty of is trusting people. And he goes on to say that he's proud to stand alone in this ring as the moral compass of WWE. And Ambrose goes on to say that at TLC, he could take the Intercontinental Championship by force. And he's like, oh, that'll be too easy. And he goes on to say he wants Seth to understand exactly what's going to happen. And so we had Seth Rollins' music, hits. Dean Ambrose sends his gas mask goons up the ramp. And all we see is just Seth Rollins ends up coming from the crowd, through the crowd. He ends up back body dropping Ambrose. And, back body drops Ambrose over the top rope, to the floor. Takes out the gas mask guys, the gas mask goons. He ends up powerbombing one of them into all of them on the outside, on the floor. And we see Ambrose ends up running away into the crowd. Seth goes after him. They both start brawling into the crowd. What we saw was Seth end up taking a trash can and he dumps it on Ambrose. And you see Ambrose dumps Seth over the barricade. Seth ends up hitting Ambrose with a springboard double axe handle off the barricade. And Ambrose takes the gas mask and hits Seth in the face with it. And he's hitting Seth with the gas mask over and over again. Ends up hitting Dirty Deeds. Ambrose ends up hitting Dirty Deeds to Seth on the floor. Ambrose takes him back into the ring. Hits another Dirty Deeds on Seth, leaving him there in the ring. And that's how the segment ended. And so you had, when Ambrose music hits, you heard, the sirens still. But all in all, this segment, it was a decent segment. It was the only enjoyable segment on, Raw tonight. So then we had Charlie Caruso interviewing Nia Jax and Tamina about heading into the match tonight with Ronda and a tag team partner of Ronda's choosing. And it was revealed by Charlie Caruso that Ronda's partner is Amber Moon. And so Nia is of saying, well, that's a shame, because they were both her and Tamina were kind of hoping that Charlie Caruso, that Caruso herself would be Ronda's partner tonight. And so Nia ends up going to say, oh, that's ridiculous. That sounds ridiculous, but so does any partner. And Tamina, she goes on to say that Tamina has been jumping Amber from behind, so they don't have to look at, Amber's face. She goes on to say tonight they're going to see her face. And that means they'll have to rearrange her appearance, just like they did with Becky. And she goes on to say that, we're gonna do this like we did to Becky before, I take it to Ronda and, taking, what's rightfully hers, which is the Raw Women's Championship. So that was the interview with Nia and Tamina. Then we had Heath Slater versus Rhyno. Loser leaves the Raw match. This was pretty boring. This match only lasted for like 4 minutes, 5 minutes tops. Heath Slater ended up winning the match. Ended up hitting Miller's Crossing on Rhyno. So Heath Slater wins the match. Pretty boring match. Yeah, it was a shit match. Then we had Baron Corbin. He was happy about Heath Slater winning the match. He was happy that Heath Slater beat Rhyno. And Heath Slater was like to Corbin, oh, what can he do to help Rhyno? He's like, oh, Rhyno has a family. And so Baron Corbin ends up giving Heath Slater a referee shirt. And he goes on to say that Heath Slater will have a long career as a ref. So that's what they make of Heath Slater. He's going to be a referee now. So yeah, I mean, even though, you know, both of them weren't doing anything on Raw. So yeah, so you make Heath Slater now a referee. Then you have Finn Balor versus Jinder Mahal. Do I even really need to say who wins this match? If you said Finn Balor, you're correct. You don't win anything. Finn Balor wins the match. Coup de grace on Jinder Mahal. One of the Singh brothers, you know, was trying to interfere in the match. Apollo Crews ended up coming out. Apollo Crews ended up taking out, you know, Singh brothers. So, you know, that was that. Finn Balor won, which was a boring match. It was a boring-ass match. Then we had Charlie Caruso interviewing Finn Balor about, you know, what a night he's been having. And, you know, Balor was like, oh, it's been a crazy night. And then he gets taken down by McIntyre. So that was what happened. McIntyre ended up coming down and taking out Balor out of nowhere. Then we had the main event. Ronda Rousey and Ember Moon versus Nia Jax and Tamina tag team match. I mean, this match, you know, Ronda was decent in it, but the whole match itself, it was, you know, didn't even really care for it. Wasn't that great of a match. Ronda Rousey and Ember Moon win it. Ember Moon ended up pinning the Eclipse on Tamina, and then it led to Ronda locking in the armbar on Tamina. Tamina ended up tapping out. So Ronda Rousey and Ember Moon win the match. And that was your Monday Night Raw. This show was just as bad as last week. You know, every week these shows are getting worse and worse. And it may be like that until heading into the new year. Possibly the Royal Rumble. Because they're going to be building up storylines for the Royal Rumble. You know, as the Royal Rumble, you know, comes. So, you know, WWE is in autopilot mode. So they're not going to do anything special until the Royal Rumble. So, but yeah, man, these shows, like I said, these shows are just going to get worse and worse. But yeah, I mean, I watched Jingle All the Way tonight. It was on AMC, one of my favorite Christmas films, one of my favorite childhood films. I was much more entertained by Jingle All the Way than Raw tonight. Even though, you know, I consider Jingle All the Way a Christmas classic. I know some people don't, because I know there are some people who hate the film. But I've seen Jingle All the Way so many times. Just watching it tonight, I was more entertained by that than Raw tonight. And the film and the movie came on, you know, before Raw. So it came on at like 6 o'clock and ended at 8, and then after that it was Raw. So, but I said, much more entertained by Jingle All the Way than Raw. But, you know, even though I love Jingle All the Way, I know some people don't. But if you haven't seen Jingle All the Way, definitely check it out. Fuck that sequel, that Jingle All the Way 2 sequel, which had Santino Marella in it, which was a WWE studio film, which is forgotten about. We didn't need a sequel to Jingle All the Way Jingle All the Way. So, but yeah, to me that's the only film, Jingle All the Way, you know, standout film. You know, I forget that a sequel was made. Jingle All the Way is just one movie, to me, in my opinion. But yeah, so anyways, that's it for this Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. If you did, definitely give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, And I will see you all back here tomorrow night for my SmackDown review and also the Mixed Match Challenge review in the same video. So hopefully SmackDown is a better show tomorrow. So yeah, so until the review, I'll see you all back here tomorrow night. Bye.